we'll talk about unconscious contracts, because I haven't found anything else that so effectively allows us to disentangle movement pattern responses and emotional rules with as much clarity. Now, it's very good to know the time travel empathy process that we learned, because sometimes you'll start to do the release of a vow and a very strong memory will come. And the vow can't be completely released until the memory has been cleared. So just you do know that process. So if while you're working you discover that you're hitting a strong memory, make a note of the memory for yourself. Stop pressing on with the vow, and do at home or on your own, do a journaling process, or with a friend from the workshop, do a process to do some time travel empathy for the memory that feels like it may be connected, because both things can be at play. The trauma memory, or as Paul and I were discussing, it doesn't have to be a trauma memory, it can be a memory that somehow has a meaning that needs to be harvested in order for the process to continue. But an alive memory, a memory that has not yet been accompanied, would be what would come up. So what I often do is I often do unconscious contract work as a starting point. I often do a self-destructive behavior. So I was thinking, what is the name for a self-destructive behavior when we're in a conflict situation? So peace oppositional behavior is my proposal. That you can think about the conversation or the conflict that you've been working with, or a new one that you're starting to work with, and you can think, what do I do that stops this process from moving forward? So, for example, I will never forgive so-and-so for the harm that I received from them. That would be a peace oppositional behavior. Or another example would be, I will not let myself be disrespected. Or another one might be, I will never forgive myself. Or I will believe that I have no worth. Or I will believe that I don't exist. Or, okay, is this starting to make sense, that there would be sort of, you can do this with negative core beliefs. You maybe have done core jackal work in the past. It would be the same kind of expression. That would be something you might be working with. But think about the conflict that you've been imagining or working with, and see what might be there that's a self-defeating behavior, or an obstructive behavior, or I will. Another one that's coming to me is, I will never say that I'm wrong. That's a good piece of obstructive behavior, you could. So it can be a belief, or it can be a belief about yourself. It can be a refusal to cooperate or listen. It can be a refusal to forgive. And then what you do is you get to walk through this process. So, so if I just keep working with Matt, I, Sarah, solemnly swear to my essential self. I'm going to underline this because this is the easiest person to swear to, and the easiest person to get a release from is your own essential self. And by essential self, I just mean your best self, or your core self, or just a sense of like your best being. I, Sarah, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will, it's a little bit never forgive. I'm so aware as I'm working with this issue of the transgenerational nature of this, that my husband hates his work, that my father wanted to quit his work, and my mother was, that I'm standing in the identical place to her. It's something like, I will never forgive. It might be, I will never soften. I'll try never soften. That I will never soften toward my husband in order to, and I put here the gold. The gold, this in order to is the most interesting part of the unconscious contract work. We're actually using grammar to help us dig for the deep needs that we have never before named that are connected to a movement pattern or an emotional rule that we carry. So I will never soften toward my husband in order to and you can ask yourself, what's the worst thing that would happen if you softened? Or what's the worst thing that would happen if you gave up the belief about yourself? Or the worst thing that would happen if you actually agreed to cooperate? So what's the worst thing that would happen if I softened? In order to keep our family safe, I think that's it. In order to keep our family safe. No matter the cost to myself, and you can also add in here, or my loved ones. And I can feel how I'm like, yes, this is a very good vow. It keeps my family safe, right? And then you really have to say, what is the cost? What is the cost of keeping this vow? And so so there are a lot of costs, but what I have a sense of is that there might be a rescue, a time travel empathy that I've never done for the Sarah who heard her parents fighting. That may be a necessary piece to be able to go on, but I'll see. So the next piece is that you'll be working in pairs. The next thing you do is you step into being this essential self. And in your handout, there is a bit of the kind of script to be able to work with this. You can see that you work through the vow, just as I have. It's step one is kind of putting words in and doing your best guess for what the words might be. And then step two, was the vow heard? So it says here, choose a representative to be the one whom the vow was made to, but just go ahead and you step into that yourself. So I'll step into Sarah's essential self. So I say, Sarah's essential self, did you hear the vow that Sarah made to you? And the essential self will either say yes or no. Yes, I heard the vow. It was a vow never to soften in order to keep the family safe. And then the next question is, do you like this vow? Essential self of Sarah, do you like this vow? And the essential self has not yet had the time travel empathy and still thinks this is a very good vow. I'm sorry, everyone. Okay, and then, but if my essential self was like, this is a sucky vow, this is obviously the silliest vow ever, this is not helping the family in any way, then I would say, would you please release Sarah's essential self? Would you please release Sarah from this contract? And I would say, Sarah, I release you from this contract and I revoke this vow. This is not a good vow. And instead, what I would love is softness. I would love for you to be able to experience softness with this person that you enjoy so much. And then you step back into being Sarah. You won't be Sarah. And you see what it's like to experience having this named and released. Sometimes people have a terrible resistance to saying that they're actually doing what they're doing. They're like, no, I don't want this to be true. I don't want it to be true that I'm not soft to my husband, so I'm not going to say it. But that doesn't help, because then you're not naming the pattern. And naming the pattern is what allows you to have choice about releasing it. Does that make sense? So let's do this as a demo. Is there somebody who, as I'm working with this, is like, oh, I can feel something moving here? Someone who'd like to experience this. You have something moving, Vicky? Come on up. Oh, and let's check if you would like to be, let's stop the recording, yeah?
I'm okay.
You're okay being recorded? Okay.
As long as you're close enough, I can hear.
Oh, okay. Do we want a mic or do we want?
Yeah, how close would you normally stand?
About here. Okay. Okay. Is it okay that I touch you?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you could move a little bit this way so I
Choop,
can
choop.
that's it, perfect.
Okay. So what is it that's starting to bubble for you?
A vow I made when I was probably about 2. Yeah. Do you want any more?
Yes. Yes, of course I do. I need everything.
Everything. So when I came out of my illness, I was already very withdrawn. And I have photos that remind me of that with my mother, and she is desperately trying to see me, to look into my eyes, and I'm just not there. And I'd already made the vow. I can find the words, but of course I didn't have the words then, but they were, I will always hold you just a little bit away from me. I will never let you fully close.
And so check and see. I think you made this vow to yourself.
Yes. Yes.
So then let's start it. I, Vicky, I 2-year-old Vicky.
So I, 2-year-old Vicky,
solemnly swear to my essential self that I will hold my mother a little away.
That I will hold my mother a little away.
And never let her close.
And never let her close.
In order to
preserve my spirit, my soul, my spark of life. Yeah, something like that. Something very precious.
I wonder if your body needs acknowledgement that that spark was almost extinguished and that it was very, very fragile and tender.
Yeah. Yes, it was almost extinguished. Yeah. And I can sort of feel a strength in that vow that I made, because it did keep me alive somehow. Yeah.
No matter the cost to myself.
No matter the cost to myself.
Or my children.
Or my children. Oh, that's painful. That's the worst bit.
Yeah. Often we wouldn't let the vow go if it weren't bad for our children. Yeah. So now we get to have you, we'll just take one step to this side, and you'll be Vicky's essential self. And you've got Vicky right there to your left. And we'll say, Vicky's essential self. Did you hear the vow that Vicky made to you? That the 2-year-old made to you? Or 1.5-year-old possibly?
Vicky's essential self.
That's you.
Me, sorry.
Yeah, so you tell me. You can answer my question without repeating.
Could you repeat?
Yes, Vicky's essential self. Yeah. Did you hear the vow that Vicky made to you?
Yes.
Is that a good vow for her?
It was.
Yes, it was a very good vow.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah. Is it still a good vow?
No. When she died 12 years ago, I recognised what had happened between us, and there was such grief that we never got to understand what happened for her while I was ill and why it happened. So but I still notice I operate from that vow with people who get close. Yeah.
Then would you please tell Vicky, Vicky, I release you, 2-year-old Vicky, I release you from this vow.
Vicky, I release you from this vow.
And I revoke this contract.
And I revoke this contract.
Just see whether that seemed just a little tentative. Just see how it's landing. Is it a true release?
I can't quite grasp it, the fullness of what I'm saying. They're just words at the moment. Just need to say them to myself, can I?
Of course,
quietly.
yeah. And I can repeat the vow for you if you need to hear it. Would you like to?
Yes, thank you.
I, 2-year-old Vicky, solemnly swear to my essential self that I will keep my mother at a slight distance, that I will never let her close, in order to preserve this tiny and fragile spark.
I release it because I preserve it.
Yeah.
I don't need to hold that vow.
Let you step back into Vicky and see how is she doing.
I feel stronger. Something's shifted, but I can't find any words for it.
Thank you. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you, Vicky. And now we'll just see if there are any questions. Yes, Jenny.
It sort of makes sense that it releases what it does, but is there any, in your own practice of using this a lot, because it's quite new to me, this practice, either your own experience that demonstrates that it really does release things, or there's any research on it? Or
There's no research on it because it's from early. I took the form from early in Hellinger's transcripts for family constellations. It's not something he does anymore, but it clicked in for me with this exploration of the way that we get locked by our neurobiology. That it seems like a way to bring these implicit, in particular, the movement pattern responses and the emotional rules. It helps us to surface them. And I haven't found anything else that really helps to surface them quite as clearly. So I try to ellipse it, I try to say, try to make the language less formal, but it's not as powerful if the language is less formal, interestingly enough. So we're staying with the formal language. There's something about it that acknowledges kind of the contractual nature, and that if it is a contract, it can be released, which is sort of a magical part of it.